Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. May is National Military Appreciation Month. As designed by Congress, it provides a period that encompasses both the history and recognition of our armed services. We're wrapping up the month of May, focusing on the nonprofit organization Stars and Stripes Honor Flight Incorporated. Their mission is to honor all veterans by flying World War II, Korean, and Vietnam vets, as well as terminally ill veterans from other conflicts to the nation's capital to visit their memorials. My first guest is Karyn Roelke. She is the VP of Public Relations for Stars and Stripes Honor Flights in Wisconsin. Hi, Karyn.
Hi, Andrea. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being here. And I want to start off talking about the history of this extraordinary organization and how you've been able to fly nearly 5,000 vets out to the nation's capital free of charge.
That's true. We started in 2006 in Port Washington. A small group of volunteers decided that this was really something that needed to happen in Wisconsin. A physician's assistant in Ohio a few years prior had started flying World War II veterans to see their memorial in D.C., realizing that there was a need for that. You know, the World War II memorial didn't open until the early 2000s, and many World War II veterans at that point weren't in a position, either physically or financially, to be able to make that trip. So this physician's assistant started flying just a few at a time on his private plane and realized what an emotional experience that was for these veterans. So a gentleman in Port Washington, Wisconsin, Joe Dean, heard about this in 2006, started putting everything together, and in 2008, November of 2008, we had our first flight as Stars and Stripes Honor Flight.
That is pretty amazing. And as you mentioned, this organization is primarily made up of volunteers.
And completely made up of volunteers. Yep.
And you're a volunteer as well. So tell me what it is about the organization that made you want to be a part of what they're doing.
You know, there's so many things, Andrea, actually. It's so rewarding to see the veterans have a wonderful flight day. They not only appreciate their memorials, but they get a real chance to be thanked. So many of these veterans came home to nothing. We see the ticker tape parades and pictures, and we think that that was their reality, and it really was not. Most veterans came home quietly, put their backpack in the back hall, and went to work after World War II and Korea. And I think we all know that in the veterans returning from the Vietnam War did not have a great experience and were not welcomed home. So it's really an honor for us to give them that welcome home, but also a full day of camaraderie with other veterans and the chance to see their memorials, the memorials that were made in their honor, and to kind of pay a last respect to their fallen comrades as well.
Absolutely. And so when we look at the different types of volunteers you've got people who are designated to be at the airport on flight days. You've got people who are designated to come up with some entertainment on flight days. So there's a lot of different things that people can do. What does someone who's interested in volunteering with you, what do they do?
Well, we're incredibly fortunate. We have about 250 active volunteers, and really couldn't pull off flight days without them. So at this point, you know, we're pretty well staffed, although as we look ahead to the fall when we're going to begin flying large groups of Vietnam veterans, we may be at that point looking on social media for some extra volunteers. But you're so right. There are so many ways that this community serves these veterans through Stars and Stripes Honor Flight. We have people in charge of maintaining our wheelchairs and getting them to and from the airport. We have, as you said, entertainment. We have people serving breakfast. We have just really every possible moment of the day, we want to make completely seamless and turnkey for our vets so they can just relax and enjoy the day. And our volunteers help us do that in so many ways.
And now for some of the questions that you are asked all the time.
Sure, that's fine.
You did just mention you're going to be taking a flight out in the fall.
We are.
Does that mean that you're actually looking for vets who can be signed up to take this flight?
Well, we're always looking for applications. We do have another flight in June, on June 9th, which is a Friday, and then we'll have 3 fall flights, September 16th, October 14th, and November 4th. And when we go to assign veterans to those flights, we'll go to our wait list, and we'll assign them in the order that we received their applications.
So first come basis.
Mostly, yes. We do fly any terminally ill vets, go to the head of the list. And then beyond, or after that would be any World War II vets, because they're our oldest veterans. And then Korean vets after that, and then we will fill with Vietnam vets as well. So we're thrilled to have a chance to welcome large numbers of Vietnam vets for the first time this fall.
That's amazing. So, of course, there are some vets who need a little help. So guardians are allowed to go on these flights with them. What are the stipulations for that?
Every veteran has a guardian with them, and the guardians actually pay a travel fee. So when people donate to Stars and Stripes Honor Flight, that's to fly veterans. And we couldn't fly as many veterans as we do if the guardians didn't pay their own way. So each veteran does have a guardian. Most veterans come to us with a guardian already in place. A family member, a neighbor, someone they're comfortable with. But we do have a long list of volunteer guardians who would love to pay the fee to go with a veteran they don't know. So as I said, most vets come to us with a guardian. The guardian is charged with keeping the veteran safe and happy and worrying about those little details, pitching the garbage, carrying the veteran's things, so that the veteran can just really relax and enjoy the day. So the guardian plays a very important role.
Yeah, and they have to be, is it a decade younger?
A generation, yes, which we define as 15 years. And that's really to make sure that the guardians are healthy enough to really take care of the veterans.
It makes a lot of sense. And as you had stated, these trips are absolutely free, and that's what makes it even more special, because really all these vets have to do is show up, and that's really amazing. So if you would give us an idea of what a typical day of an honor flight, how does that look?
I'd love to. The veterans check in very early. And our crew, even when the veterans check in early, our crew has already been there for several hours preparing. They check in between 5 and 5:30 in the morning at the airport. They'll head through security, get a little breakfast, take a portrait with their guardian, which is a nice keepsake for them for later. Little airport entertainment, always the national anthem. And then we'll board the plane, head out around 7 a.m. Sometimes we fly into Reagan Airport, sometimes Dulles, it just depends. And then we'll spend the day in D.C. touring the memorials with a police escort. Wow. Which really, if we didn't have a park police escort, we wouldn't see very much, because traffic in D.C. can be very challenging.
I lived there before, so I know.
You know. And then we'll load back up, head back to Milwaukee, usually land around 8 or 8:30, and often we have a really nice community here that turns out to support those heroes when they come home.
Yeah, and so there was a documentary done, I want to say some years back.
Correct.
Maybe, 6 years ago?
Yes.
And it was called Honor Flight. And I think that we can show a clip to the viewers at home to kind of give them an idea of just how emotional and special these flights are. Let's take a look.
My philosophy is I'm not afraid of death. Death doesn't scare me. What scares hell out of me is how I gotta live.
Once you've been in combat with people, you have a affinity for life with those people. It never goes away.
One day we sent out 34 planes, only 5 of them returned. There were 5 men on each plane. And that's why I haven't talked about it. This is the first time I've ever talked about it.
There's only a few of them left, but the ones that are alive, I have a very strong bond with them.
Back in January of 2010, when we announced that we were going to launch Operation Resolve, that we were going to try to get as many World War II veterans as possible to visit their memorial in Washington, D.C.
We fly World War II veterans to see their memorial at no cost to them.
It's like I won the lottery.
And there was a real sense of urgency about that because the clock was running. This community came together in one of the most extraordinary things that I have ever been part of, whether it was church groups or civics groups or veterans groups, kids groups, schools, raise the money to get as many World War II veterans as possible to visit their memorial in Washington, D.C.
king.
I absolutely love that. And I'll tell you, the man that is that appears in the very beginning of that clip, he was here 4 years ago.
Harvey, probably?
Yes,
Yes.
and told us his outstanding story. He was a World War II vet, and
Navy.
I remember he wrote a book or a poem or something.
Oh, that was
special.
Julian.
Julian, okay,
is the
okay.
The poet, yes.
So
Yep.
it's just kind of like these guys are, and gals, I should say, really special because the emotion is there, and it makes you really realize how much their lives were affected by being a part of these particular scenarios.
Yes, and the veterans that are featured in that movie, with one obvious exception who passes away during the movie, come to every homecoming of ours.
Oh, wow.
And they sit together, which is fun. They're kind of the VIPs of the airport.
Yeah, and I think back, I think it's pretty amazing. Like both of my grandfathers fought in World War II, and I don't remember growing up them really talking about it, but
No,
now
they
as an
didn't.
adult, and they both passed on, I kind of wish I had asked more questions and really understood what it is that they experienced. But my grandmother, who's going to be 96 in October, I talked to her right before I came to this taping, and I just asked her a couple of questions, and she said that my grandfather was drafted, and at that time, if you had 3 kids, then they sent you home. So
Correct.
after she gave birth to their 3rd child, he was able to come home. But I'm just like, I can't believe, they have these stories, and sometimes we kind of forget that they've got so much to share.
Yeah, I have a great anecdote about that particular thing, actually.
That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
what I wanted to quickly talk about now is some of the highlights that you feel really stand out when it comes to these trips for the vets.
Yep. It's amazing because when we hear from the vets after they get back, different things are important to different vets, which is fun. Some of them will say that they never have the chance, or don't often have the chance, to be in the company of so many other vets. And that's a great gift to them, and they're very appreciative
People who
of that.
get it, yeah.
Yeah, well, yes, right. And
Yeah.
who experience some of the same things, even if they weren't in the same branch. Who lived through the same period in time. So that's often fun for them. We get a lot of kids that come out to the airport, and even in DC, children will come up to the vets at the memorials, and that is incredibly touching to them, that children would remember or would want to take time to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
We sometimes, at the Korean War Memorial, there are sometimes Korean citizens who will wait at that memorial for American Korean War veterans to thank them personally, which is really an emotional moment for our Korean War vets. Some of them it's the homecoming, some of them it's the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington. It's interesting to talk to veterans after flights and see what was important to each individual vet, because it's often very different.
Yeah, and you guys also visit the Pentagon 9/11 Memorial.
Usually a drive-by.
A drive-by,
Yep,
okay.
it's difficult to get buses in there easily. So we often drive by that. It's right near the Air Force Memorial.
Yeah.
So as we're heading to the Air Force Memorial, or even when you're standing at the Air Force Memorial, you can see that, and we often talk about that.
And
as
they
well.
always get a group photo together, right?
We always get a group photo.
love it.
We tend to always get a group photo of all of our Marines together at the Marine Corps Memorial, and the World War II vets at the World War II Memorial.
Makes sense to me. It's all pretty special. And Karyn, if you would, I'd love for you to stick around so that we can talk a little bit more about the Stars and Stripes Honor Flight. And we're also going to be joined by a very special guest who is going to share his very personal story with us about his experience in the Korean War. So
Wonderful.
it's going to get good. We'll continue our tribute to veterans in honor of Military Appreciation Month and meet Korean War Army vet Earl Thomas right after this.